V8 jet ski or LS swap jet ski. The first video got a ton of response, so we're going to continue with the project. And yes, it is really happening. I know it can be hard to tell sometimes because we joke around a lot, but it is something that we are doing. I know that engine RPM has been questioned by many people in the comment section, and I want to say thank you all for supporting the first video with the abundance of views and comments. And we're going to definitely address the whole RPM thing later on in the video. And I'm also planning to make a bit of a parts list for this thing so that I can get some parts ordered for what I need for this project. First thing I got to do is remove the old engine. There's no doubt that this engine is too wide to fit in this hull. The opening up here is about 18 inches. Whereas this engine block at the widest point is about 20 and 1/2, or let's say 22 inches. And I know for certain that the LS is not going to fit with the heads on it. Definitely not going to fit into the hole there. So I'm going to pop the heads off and see if maybe we can kind of, shoehorn it in there to test fit the engine into the hull. And also I would like to measure the bores and see what size engine this is. I ordered it as a 6-liter engine. It showed up all of the markings on it were for a 4.8 liter. These blocks are marked on them. They either say 4.8/5.3 or 6.0 stamped on the block. This one had that part ground off, so I think maybe some funny business. There's always lots of shady stuff associated with the automotive world. Bit of water in the cylinders from when I washed it. We're going to take it apart, oil clean it, oil it, so that's not a huge concern. Pull this other cylinder head off. There we go. So the inaugural lifting of the block, I'm going to attempt to put it in there, but I figured I've got the line scale, so I'm going to go ahead and weigh this thing. £357. This is by far the heaviest part of the engine. Cylinder heads don't weigh squat. £24 on both heads. We're looking at probably 400 and 500 pounds worth of engine when it's all said and done. And now I am encountering the first obstacle of many, I'm sure, which is the fact that this engine block is too wide to fit into the hull. So I'm going to have to be doing some custom modification to the hull so that I can get the engine in and out. That engine is not going to fit into the opening here, so I'm certainly going to have to do some custom work just to get the engine in. So I've considered separating the upper hull from the lower hull around the bond line all around the ski, but realistically I don't think that that's practical, since the engine will probably have to come in and out multiple times. So it's not practical for me to keep gluing the halves, you know, back together all the time. I'm thinking about cutting out basically this rear section here and then making it so it can, like, you know, bolt on and unbolt for easy removal. The sides in this area probably will have to be bulged for the heads and the exhaust manifolds, although after measuring it out, it is very close to being able to fit just the way that it is. I want to cut like this down right here and then come down into this area and cut along there and then go back up. And the reason I want to come out to here is so that I can underneath have like an aluminum plate glued and bolted to this side, and then it would have, like, you know, bolt holes for this side, so I could just drop some bolts in there and they'd be like the kind of things that don't stick up, so they wouldn't like stab into my feet or nothing. And, you know, we'd cut out little circles for those to go in the foot pads, and then obviously these foot pads are going to get pulled and tossed, so who really cares about that kind of stuff. But if that makes sense, we're going to be getting new stuff for this. And I kind of wanted to cut right here because the brace for the rear seat goes right here, and so that's already a point where it would kind of, you know, kind of bolt itself back together, if you will. My plan is to, you know, cut some of this out, then we'll get the block dropped in there and kind of mocked up, and then we'll see kind of how the heads fit on it and see, you know, what we have to do modification wise to bulging this out. Floating my thoughts out there, seeing what you guys think, if you guys have any really good ideas of what I should do, and maybe you guys can help me out with this build a little bit. I've got the pistons, the bores all cleaned and oiled up, and now, you know, this is going to be sitting a little bit open for a while, so I'm going to go ahead and tape this off. A lot of questions were rolling in on that first video, and so I kind of wanted to go through the parts that I'm planning on, you know, purchasing to make this actually happen. Got a parts list going on the old trusty cardboard here, and I'm just going to rattle them off, and if you guys think I'm missing something, definitely chime in the comment section. That way, maybe I forgot something and then I can make sure to get it. Alright, so I'm going to need like an EFI setup or carbs for the engine, and I'm kind of leaning towards EFI. I'm kind of thinking the Holley Terminator X, but if you guys have a better suggestion, then let me know, and I will definitely look into that. I gotta get a cam and springs. The camshaft in this engine is set up to make power, I think at like 4,500 RPM, and basically I need a cam to move the power up so that we can be making more power in the 70, well, I mean, ideally 7,500 RPM, but might just end up revving to 7,000 RPM on this engine. So, and then another thing going along with the EFI is I gotta get the throttle body, because this came with the electronic one, so I've got to get a cable operated one, got to get gaskets for like the engine and such, exhaust manifolds, either got to get like swap manifolds that tuck in really tight, or I might end up having to build my own exhaust manifolds. Let's see, obviously got to take care of the oil pan. It's just too tall. It's a truck oil pan, so either get a swap oil pan or make a custom one myself. Measured it out, and if I want my drive coupler to line up to basically the center of the crankshaft on the engine, I'm going to need to take about 4 inches out of the oil pan. If I can get the engine to sit low enough, I'll be able to come up with some sort of custom coupler to mount the engine to the drive shaft for the jet pump. Which really brings us to the next thing, is the jet pump unit itself. Obviously, this LS engine isn't going to spin as fast as the, you know, the 1.8 liter engines, the little 4 cylinders. I say little, but those 1.8s are the biggest production engine for a wave runner or any personal watercraft. So those things, they can spin them a lot higher, and obviously the LS isn't going to spin that high. So we're going to need some sort of like custom pump setup, some way to, you know, use all that power and put it to the water. I'm going to need at least a different impeller, probably some different stuff going on with the jet pump, you know, like the bigger pump and the aftermarket pump parts. So to accommodate the lower RPM that this engine is going to turn, which 7,000, I think that I could probably turn it to 75, maybe 8,000 RPM. I mean, it has been done before. It's just whether or not I can do it, you know, within my budget. I probably can turn it that fast, but realistically, the easiest way to make the speed that I want with the RPM that I'm turning is to, you know, get an impeller that matches the RPM to the speed that I want. The other option would be some sort of drive. I won't call it a drive reducer, but it'd be a drive increaser. So essentially we would be overdriving the you know, the jet pump drive shaft as opposed to the engine RPMs. So, you know, that's something in my mind. I can make a custom box, you know, using like gears out of a transmission or something. And I would imagine doing like a, you know, 7-to-10 ratio. So like the engine spins 7,000 RPM and the pump would spin 10,000 RPM. But, you know, that's just kind of stuff I'm thinking about, you know, if we have to go that route. And if we do go that route, it would actually need the engine to sit up a little bit higher, so it would give me a little bit more wiggle room on the oil pan. Obviously, I got to build motor mounts. You know, I'm not going to buy them because they don't exist. So I'm going to be custom building them myself. And that is my parts list so far. And if you guys think that I missed something, definitely chime in because, you know, I don't want to forget to get the parts that I need. I get that you guys want to see this done. So yeah, any helpful comments, that'd be great. One thing I did want to ask you guys a question about, if any of you guys are running the Terminator X EFI, I am wondering if you can run E85 with that or not. So if you know about that, please let me know in the comments section. There's some people in the comments from the first video who are saying that this isn't going to handle like the power, where these FZR hulls are the ones that people are using to go like super fast, and there's some really high horsepower ones out there running, you know, 1,300 horsepower. At least that's what they claim. So I guess you take that with a grain of salt. But yeah, I mean, they have no problem running them really fast with that kind of horsepower. And I have no clue what they're running for pumps, but I'm assuming they didn't replace the entire jet pump unit with a Berkeley jet pump. And not saying that that's not a possibility. I mean, if we really have to go that route, that obviously is an option. If for some reason, you know, the pump for this thing just doesn't work with the LS, we might have to go to like a Berkeley or a jet boat type jet pump for this. But one way or the other, we're going to get this thing done. Some of the other concerns that were brought up about this particular build is the weight of it. And you guys saw that I weighed the engine in this video. Hey, let me do some quick maths. Everything so far is like 430 pounds. If I remember correctly, the original engine to this is like 260 or 280 pounds. So we're looking at, oh boy, maybe, is that 150 more pounds than the regular engine would be? Something like that. I mean, that number will probably grow and it might shrink just depending on, you know, what stays in and what comes out and things like that. So realistically, in my mind, the engine is going to end up weighing around 400 to 500 pounds. Well, at least 430. So somewhere between 430 and 500 pounds of engine. You know, that's like 150 pounds more than the original. And that being said, I don't think this is going to sink. It is rated for 2 people from the factory. So all you got to do is not put a second person on there, and there's your 150 pounds of extra weight that'll float. And yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm not even worried about that. The FZR is a large enough ski that I don't think this will be a problem. And if it was something smaller, it might be a problem. And if it was something smaller, the engine probably wouldn't fit. If I do find that the weight is an issue, then I will just have to go ahead, bite the bullet, and purchase the aluminum block LS that will lighten up the build by at least 100 pounds, and then will be, you know, no sweat as far as the weight is concerned. Obviously, it will be a little bit heavier than stock, which, you know, that's just the way it's got to be. We'll have more power, but we're also going to have more weight. And so these skis, like large sit-downs, they range in weight from about like 700 and something up to like, I believe they go up to about 1,100 pounds. So hopefully, I'm just hoping with this build to be somewhere in the 1,000 pounds of entire completed ski when it's all done. And I'll be pretty happy with that number if we can achieve that. Obviously, more weight is bad. We don't really want that. But more engine is good. We do want that. Take a little bit of a dive into the LS stuff that I have here. And basically what I have, it is a 4.8 liter. I measured the cylinder bores and they're 3.75 inch. And with the flat top piston, that means it's a 4.8 liter. It has 862 heads on it. And it is the truck manifold with the electric throttle body. So that's kind of annoying. I wish it was the cable one. Come over here to the engine. And, you know, where it would have been stamped 5348, they ground that off because they sold it to me as a 6 liter. That's definitely some shady stuff right there. The block is, obviously it's a cast iron, it's a truck block. So basically what I'm doing is saving money and thinking in the future, if we're going to boost this thing way up, the iron block is going to be stronger. And now I'm not too terribly disappointed that it's a 4.8. I mean, I'm really frustrated that the shady like wrecking yard like lied to me and tried to sell me as a 6 liter. But you know, the 4.8, it should technically work for our purposes. And you know, everybody says that it'll run a higher RPM because it has the shorter stroke than the 5.3 and the 6.0. Now I'm wanting to put cam and springs in this thing, and for camshaft, I'm thinking something similar to like a sloppy stage 2 cam or something like that. Obviously, I've kind of like read up and watched up all the videos on the LS stuff, and it seems to me like something similar to a sloppy stage 2 will be kind of what I need. I kind of like to turn a little bit more RPM, so maybe I'll have to look into more of a stage 3 cam, but I'm not really sure. So if you guys have some hot info on that, definitely hook me up with that. I'm not exactly sure how long this project is going to take or what's going to be all involved with it. But for one thing is sure, the LS is going to be an insane engine in a jet ski, tons of torque and more horsepower than what this thing would come with stock. Obviously, this is a lot of work, and I don't know how well it shows in the video, but I am super excited about this. Keep on voting with your views, support this video, and make sure to watch the whole series. It's going to have its own playlist now that there's 2 videos on it. So if you haven't seen number 1 or the first video on the V8 jet ski, the V8 LS swap to jet ski, definitely check that video out. I'm going to do another video on this coming up fairly soon, but the next video should be something with one of the pretty sick stand-up builds that Jacob's doing. And then we'll probably get back into the V8 jet ski. So it's not going to be every video's V8 jet ski, and we still got other content mixed in. So we got other cool jet ski stuff going on as well. If you were wanting to support us, one way that you can support is by getting some of our merch. It's obviously linked in the description of the video. I gotta stop doing video and get back to work so I can get some more progress done on this LS swapped V8 jet ski.